Sir Jimmy Shand, Scotland's most famous musician, died last week at the age of 92. Even in his 90s, he was still managing a wee tune. In a career that spanned 7 decades, his distinctive accordion sound saw him rise from being a humble fife miner to an international musical legend. A man with magic at his fingers. This is his remarkable story.
I was born in East Weems, on the shores of the Forth, Nino family. I started actually playing the tenor with organ, just as I was getting ready for school. There was music in a lot of homes in the mining area, but there was a few good players even in our own district. Melodium was the main thing, you know. My father was a player before me. He originally was a ploughman, and he lived in the bothies at the farm. And he was quite a good player in his day, for what I remember. Well, I mind stepping onto the cage and it's a bit of a thrill. And when the cage did drop away, and you just drop like a stain, as you would say. Worked in the pits for quite a while. Filling and drawing, working with a man and digging and producing the coal. Used to do an average at least 12 ton a day, you know. When they came on strike in 1926, I would say you were lucky if you could work 2 months a year. It was really a hard time at that time. My luck certainly changed when I went to Dundee. The usual trend on a Saturday night was to go down and go around the music shops. Ford was the main accordion one. We used to stand and admire all the various accordions. And standing this Saturday night looking in. And my chum says to me, he says, well, you maybe can't buy one. But he says, it'll not cost you anything to try. So I plucked up courage to go into the shop, trying an instrument. I had no hopes of being able to purchase because I didn't have the finance, but when I was playing away in the shop, the proprietor came out of the office. It was actually Mr. Forbes himself, and he seemed to be a kind of pleased with what I was doing. And he said to me, "What do you do for a living?" I says, "Nothing." He offered me a job there and then, and he arranged for me to make my first gramophone records, which were made in 1933 on the 8th of November.
First time I heard Jimmy Shand was in 1933. He played very fast, of course, but the character and the regimentation and the discipline of the playing really impressed me very much, and especially when I think back now, the first recordings that he did all had the same characteristic of fresh, bright, crisp sound.
did the first playback. To me, it was the first time I've ever heard myself play. And I knew then that I had a different style for anything else that had been on records before. In fact, it lifted my hair quite a bit that day, just to hear it.
Jimmy Shand in 1982 during the making of a documentary, and they took me up to the house, and he wouldn't actually allow the cameras to film us meeting. He wanted to meet properly. He said he'd been looking forward to meeting me for a while, and I was greatly touched by that, the fact that he even knew who I was. And we went into the house and had a natter, and then came out and played, sat in the garden and played the Bluebell Polka for the cameras. It was quite a day. I'll never forget it. I was raised on Jimmy Shand's music. You know, my mother used to put me in a corner with a phonogram and a half-dozen Jimmy Shand records to keep me quiet. So that was her piece for the day. So I really, he was a huge influence in my life. I don't suppose I would be doing what I do for a living if it hadn't been for Jimmy Shand. It was he taught me by osmosis. You know, I played my first accordion straight out with the Christmas sock, no lessons. And it was just I thought he was a remarkable individual. You know, he was a very steady, very straight player, but he was able to convey a tremendous amount of feeling in his playing, but with no fancy tricks. It was all just coming directly from him.
I've asked lots of people to describe the Shand dunt to me. They fail, because you can't describe it. You've got to listen to it. It's the way, Jimmy once said to me, when I said, how do you get this dunt? He said, you know, son, I just follow the best feet on the dance floor. There's his secret.
Well, I've had a habit that I always play the simple way. Nothing too fancy. And that's where I think you get the lot. If you have the feeling, the real feeling for the playing. Because I mean, you can transform your lot to the dancer, and you can get a movement off the dancer that comes back to you.
I remember the team from Edinburgh dancing at Holyrood Palace, Jimmy Shand playing, and the dance went really well, but the dance was finished after 3 times through. Jimmy kept playing. 32 bars later, Jimmy was still playing, played his chord. And after the performance, the Queen and the Duke were coming around being introduced to people. And the Duke said to Jimmy, well, Mr. Shand, the dancers rather beat you to it tonight. And Jimmy said, I played what I was dealt to play.
Here then we have a G-I-G, a jig. Take your partners for Hamilton House.
Well, I was 7 years of age when I first danced to Jimmy Shand in person. And this was tremendous for a wee guy of 7. And many years later, Jim was instrumental in me joining White Heather Club, the very famous White Heather Club. And the association carried on from there. He was always a strict tempo man. And I asked him once, Jimmy, could you speed that up a wee bit? And he said to me, son, you'll just dance it to the tempo it's supposed to be played at.
The magical thing about Jimmy Shand was this incredibly strict tempo. In rehearsal, if a tune was 2 minutes and 57 seconds, you could be absolutely certain that on performance it would be 2 minutes and 57 seconds. And there's actually not very many people can do that. It's quite a remarkable thing. This inbuilt sense in the head of tempo. Of course, it annoyed a lot of people. I mean, singers, sometimes singers had to bend to Jimmy's way of playing it rather than the other way around.
In one of the first programmes I ever took part in, I just finished my studies at the Royal Academy in London and thought I was nae small drink. And came home to do my first broadcast with Jimmy and his band, and my opening number was Westering Home. And I signalled that I was ready to come on, and the fella said, blah, 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 blah. Ladies and gentlemen, Bill McHugh. So I come hearing onto the floor and sung, Westering Home and a song and day. And I suddenly realised the band weren't with me. And Jimmy was playing, hi-ya-da-da, hi-ya-da-da. Is that right? Well, you play it at your speed again and I'll sing it. Well, the boys busk it. Westering Home, what's the key? G. The key of G for Westering Home, a wee verse and chorus for old time's sake. You ready? Hi-ya-da-da. Is it? Here we go. Westering Home and the song in the air, light in the eye and it's goodbye to care. Laughter, oh love, and a welcoming there. I love my heart, my own one. Tell me, oh lands of the Orient gay, speak of the riches and joys of Cathay. Hey, but it's grand to be walking all day and find yourself nearer to Islay, and it's Westering Home and a song in the air, light in the eye and it's goodbye to care. Laughter, oh love, and a welcoming there. I love my heart, my own one.
The characteristic of sound which he had there was especially evident in waltz playing, because he arranged the phrasing in such a way as it was just like a Scottish country dance tune with its own particular phrasing, like a waltz tune, My Home. That would be as we would do it, as the normal person would play it. Shand didn't do it that way. He used the crotchet. You see, it was a different lift with it all together, crisper, and just a better sound.
two aspects of the Scottish dance scene as far as I'm concerned. Gow was a great influence on the fiddle, and then along comes Shand with the accordion, the instrument of the bothy. Some people would say tuchter music. Shand developed it from the bothy. He went across and told the Hohner factory in Germany the sort of sound he wanted. That was the start of the Shand Merino.
Charlie Ford and I developed and designed the thing the way I wanted it, and reduced in size but still workable, which has proved in the years to be successful. The first good one was the famous Shand Merino. I got delivery of that in June 1939, just before the war started. During the war, I did solo broadcasts for the BBC, broadcasts to the troops. And I've been doing that for quite a while. And got a call from Howard Locker, wanted me to do a solo spot. And I said to him, well, I says, I'm playing with a small group. I says, why not give them a chance? He says, are they good? Well, I says, they're possible. Well, he says, if they please you, bring them along. So I think we were the first band that ever got on the BBC without an audition.
Can we clear the boom? Get cameras 1 and 2 in position. We've chosen for our dance, and I think probably rightly, as this programme's coming from Springfield Road in Glasgow, the Glasgow Highlanders. Stand by, Jimmy Shand. Cue, Jimmy. A lot of lads went into London and never made it. It's a funny thing, I did a lot of work round about London or in the South Coast. But I kept my base in Scotland. And the old roads with the motorways, it was a tedious journey, 9, 10 hours at that time. You can knock about halfway now, but the longest journey I ever did down and up in the winter was South Sea, Portsmouth. I think it was about 550 miles each way. I left on Sunday about dinner time, had a wee bit sleep, and then when we arrived at South Sea, did the dance and then come back up the road, back to Murton.
We grew up with Jimmy Shand's music when we were kids. It was the most popular music, I would say, in Shetland. And every New Year and every party and everything, there was always Jimmy Shand. And he was quite a remarkable, solid rock, solid player, and strict rhythm. was Jimmy Shand fans and there was Bobby McLeod fans. And those that liked the West Coast swing, they were in one camp and all the Jimmy Shand fans were in another camp. It was kind of like Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin kind of thing. But as I say, we loved his music.
I've always been branded a speed merchant by the accordion playing populace, and I was amazed at how steady he played and how little movement went into anything. In fact, when I met him, he told me that a lady once accused him of miming. And he says, I just took her into the room, son, he said, and I gathered up all the pleats of the box, he says, and I played at a high level on the young pleat. And it was, you know, there's very, very few people had that amount of control.
Oh, Jimmy Shand. Well, you know, I hardly expected a quiet man like you to be driving a fast racing motorcycle.
Why that, Jim?
Well, when did you take a notion of this lark?
Oh, I've been riding motorbikes since 1927.
Is this your hobby then?
Oh, I've been now, yeah.
When on earth do you get time with all your travelling to ride a motorcycle like this?
Oh, well, in later years, it's just been occasionally when I come in on a nice bright morning, I maybe had a wee bit flit for fresh air after a dance.
The first motorbike I got was for a lad that was winching my sister, actually. He bought it and he didn't care nothing about him and it. He couldn't get it started. So he asked me if I wanted it. Well, it was in Leave, 4 mile away. So I shoved it home 4 mile. And that was no longer getting it going. It just developed from there. My ambition was to have an international Norton. Good days. We used to go to the TT every year. Well, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I must thank the North East Fife District Council and the Community Councils for this great honour. Going back into this building gave me great memories because when I was visiting there, it was to pay 10 bob fines for motorbike offences. I mind looking on the criminal register and seeing James Shand.
All over the wide world, no matter where you go, there is a name, a Scottish name, that all the people know what it's the lair of Achtar Machty, and his music beats the band. Whenever he plays, you'll hear them say, you're welcome, Jimmy
Now that's the chorus of the words of a song I wrote some years ago, not for any other reason, but my heart would have it so. There's many reasons songs are born, for love, both old and young, for broken hearts and hearts full joyous, you have heard them sung. But here's a man who proud can stand and to the world tell, although he wouldna, for he's shy, my music speaks for itself.
Family get-togethers in a mining community were mostly at the weekends because it was a hard week's work and you caught up with your sleep with a long line of Saturday. Saturday night was family night. Everybody came for their tea, brothers and sisters, whether they were living at home or not. And the wireless then was a great thing because there was no telly. And of course you had the FIP results and you had the McFlannels. And then after your tea, the Scottish dance music. And you could either sit at the piano and try and vamp along with Jimmy Shan's band. My own father played the accordion. So we used to have a session in the house, you see, with him playing the tunes that was on the wireless. So it was a great kind of family get-together. Early form of Cayleys, I think.
I was brought up in the 78 era when Dad come home with a new Shand or a new Rennie or a new Cameron. But remember, this is in the 50s when Scottish dance music was the programme on a Saturday night. Bobby McLeod once told me that you never missed a note if you went through a village or a town, house to house with the door or the window open. You got the start of one tune. By the time you reached the end of the village, you got the whole set. The era of Scottish dance music. The only thing to listen to on a Saturday evening.
Saturday was a special day. Me and my pals would go to see John Wayne and Richard Todd starring in the picture show. With flags unfurled, they changed the world to a land that knows no fear. But when I got to the door at number 24, this is what I'd love to hear. Jimmy Shan's on the wireless, Jimmy Shand and his band. And the way the man made music took us to a wonderland. Jimmy Shand's on the wireless, and his fish for the tea. And if memories are gold dust, I'm rich as a boy.
I read somewhere that Jimmy Shan's records at one time were among the top sellers in the world. I mean, they were up there with people like Bing Crosby and things like that because they had such a huge market spread all over the world. Anywhere there were English-speaking people, Jimmy Shan's music was heard.
I can't begin to count the number of times I mentioned Jimmy Shan's name on Take the Floor on Saturday night. Either a tune or his manner of playing. And to think, this was a gentleman who failed his first BBC edition. Didn't take him long to come back in there, I can tell you. But, I mean, what's different about Jimmy Shan? He's made so many records galore. And you know, the records are worth less than some other records. The reason is obvious, because he sold so many. And they're still there, the people that want the 78 era, they're there, available. But to think, also, Top of the Pops. Top of the Pops, a Scottish dance band leader, Top of the Pops. I've forgotten the other names that appeared that year, but I'll always remember the name of Jimmy Shand.
He wasn't just a player, he was a very adept composer as well. You know, strathspeys, marches, reels, hornpipes and waltzes and things. But one of my favourites, I enjoyed playing it with him, was the Dundee City Police Pipe Band. And I think that was one of his best.
Well, Jimmy, of course, was so popular in Scotland, but it wasn't till I did a tour with him and Kenneth McKellar and others in New Zealand and Australia that I suddenly realised just how popular this man was. I mean, we would taxi into an airport and the band would be out. It was almost like welcoming the Beatles. They just were there to see and to meet Jimmy Shand. And there was no hype attached to it, no PR men running about organising this. He would just walk off the plane and it was almost like the Ayatollah of Scottish music had arrived.
After the performances, when people came for autographs, and over in Canada and America, over the years, they got big followings, and he stayed till the last one went. Queue outside the room, he would sit there an hour and a half after the performance. You're choking to get back home to get something to eat and get a sleep because you're on the first flight the next morning to go to the next place, you know. But I learned from him that if you take a wee bit more time with your so-called fans, they stay with you for a lifetime.
Also on the tours, I would say to Jimmy, what have you been doing today? Oh, he said, I'm exhausted. And that was before he'd gone on stage. And I used to think, well, you should have been resting. He said, no, and he would list places he'd been to. Someone had wanted him to go and play at somebody's birthday party, or an old folks' home had asked him to go along and make a special appearance. I mean, he was so generous with his time and talent.
Honours were showered on Jimmy during his long career. Official honours like the MBE in 1962 and in 1999, all Scotland rejoiced when Jimmy, the Laird of Auchtermuchty, received a well-deserved knighthood. Musical honours were plentiful. In the 60s, he was awarded the prestigious Carl Allen Award 3 times in a row. Actually, he won it 4 times in a row, but with customary humility refused the 4th one, as he thought others should have a chance. He made hundreds of records and received several gold discs during his long and distinguished recording career. In 1988, Dundee University gave him a Master of Arts degree for his outstanding contribution to Scottish music. Also, he was an honorary member of accordion and fiddle clubs up and down the land. Had a pub named after him. Aye, and even a train that ran up and down the west coast of Scotland. Radio and television featured him many times, and he even appeared in the most famous tribute programme of them all.
Jimmy, you weren't expecting a second presentation, but I came along here so that I could say, musician, conductor, award-winning musician, tonight, Jimmy Shand, this is your life.
His contribution is equal to Gow's as far as the dance music of Scotland is concerned.
I think his legacy will be, while Scottish music is played and danced to all over the world, the name of Shand will always be there.
You're seeing the legacy that Jimmy has left us with the very fact that Scottish traditional music, dance music, is enjoying such a huge popularity nowadays. I mean, he got that ball rolling for us.